No, before you even ask, the New Orleans Pelicans are not going to be getting Giannis Antetokounmpo for Zion Williamson. But that doesn't mean they can't get nothing. Let's talk about that on the Thursday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And now, the number one sports podcast network in the nation. Did you hear that? Number one. My mom might be proud of me, finally. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 12,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. You can also watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm your host for today, Pelicans insider, credentialed member of the media, Dylan Sanders. You can find me over on Twitter at Dilly Sanders, and I'm also the publisher of Pelicans Roundtable, right over here. I can never get the mirrored video right. I'm the publisher of Pelicans Roundtable. It was fun community of basketball fans. Today, we're going to be going into Jordan Poole held this charity event where he gave 12 kids from the Boys and Girls Club local chapter $300 to spend. It was pretty cool to see all these kids get super excited about Christmas gifts. Kind of got me into the Christmas spirit. We're going to talk about that, talking to Jordan Poole at that event. Then we're going to talk about the Timberwolves game that's tonight. It's the second one in a row where they play the Minnesota Timberwolves at home. Maybe they've learned enough from the last one to get a win. And then, of course, we're going to have to talk about the biggest thing that people are talking about around this team right now, which is Zion Williamson and his trade value, which I think is a little bit higher than people give him credit for. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right. We joked about it in the cold open, but no, while the New Orleans Pelicans are not going to be getting Giannis Antetokounmpo for Zion Williamson, that doesn't mean they can't get nothing, because there's one thing about his contract that I think could help save the New Orleans Pelicans from being completely stuck with an injured star that nobody wants to trade for. Because that's the brutal truth of it right now is this is not a Giannis Antetokounmpo situation where the Bucks are going to be able to trade him to the San Antonio Spurs and get Stephon Castle and Keldon Johnson. They're not going to be able to trade Zion and be able to hit reset on their franchise because of it. Just because that is the kind of Zion's talent is the type of player you trade away when it's Anthony Davis and you get you get to restart your franchise. You get to start anew with the haul that they got for an Anthony Davis. That is where his talent should be realistically. And if, not bashing Zion at all in this, if the injury luck had been better, maybe you would see that. Truthfully, if his injury luck was better, we would be in this conversation. We wouldn't be having it because it would have worked out and he'd be here. I truthfully don't get the vibe that he completely hates New Orleans. I think that there's a lot of frustration with constant injury, not being around on both sides. I think the team is definitely probably not the happiest about it. How can you be? This is the centerpiece of your franchise. Never there. It's the same conversation. We've had this conversation before. We had it yesterday. But he is he's the centerpiece. He is supposed to be the guy that fans come and see. And then whenever he's not playing, fans don't come, they don't see, and they complain. And so this is not going based off of any recent reporting. It's just the general vibe. I do think it is probably coming to an end soon. If that's this season, if it's next season, I just don't expect it to be a partnership for much longer. And right now, I'm sure the Pelicans probably are making calls, as I've heard they've been doing for a while. It's just the interest is super low because we've talked about it. The reason that I think that he might have a little bit more trade value than people give him credit for is his contract. Now you look at a player like this where he's not playing, and you think of a player like Joel Embiid, where nobody wants to touch that contract because if you're wasting money. It's a huge financial risk to be able to take take Joel Embiid on, because if he plays, great. If he doesn't, then you're stuck with one of the most expensive centers in the NBA doing nothing. Right now, Zion Williamson is getting paid very, very handsomely. $39 million this year. He'll be up to 42 next year, up to 44 in 2027, 2028, the last year of his deal. But because he hasn't played as much, the rest of his contract is non-guaranteed. So if you take Zion on, it is a risk for this year and this year only. So you can waive him and not have to deal with the aftermath if if whatever you trade for him, the injuries magically stop. I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. If the Pelicans do trade Zion, I don't expect it to be a situation where, now he's like a James Harden from a couple of years ago. I don't expect it to be a situation where, now he's magically fine. It does just seem to be an unfortunate truth to him. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love to see him go on to have a great career. It just doesn't seem like this is the place where it's going to be. So when you're in these, trade negotiations with teams, that is something that helps you out, I think, massively. I also don't think that just because a team can cut him next year means that they're going to get a haul. I just think that it does help your negotiations a little bit. You may be able to talk to a team like the Sacramento Kings, who are desperate. They realize that this iteration is not working. Maybe you get like a DeMar DeRozan, a Domantas Sabonis, a contract that they are not really happy with right now, but not because the player's bad. It's just because that's not where the team is heading. You could possibly get a player like that could actually end up being a better piece for your team that actually plays, and you're getting more value out of the money than Zion Williamson. I'd be way more on board with taking a risk with a player that might not live up to his contract right now, but you have a little bit more faith in actually playing than just calling it quits, cutting Zion. You don't have to worry about the money in the future. You can, build around your team with better expectations of what it'll look like moving forward. But then you just completely wipe off the value of Zion Williamson. I'd be way more in tune to trade for one of those guys. Maybe a player I wouldn't trade for that I think is probably going to get brought up a lot because another often injured disgruntled star like a LaMelo Ball, I think that would be a bad idea. Not because I think LaMelo Ball is a bad player. It's just it's like a 1-to-1 trade at this point. Yes, I do think the Pelicans can get out of this contract by also adding a player. It's just you got to find the right trade partner to do so. I don't think that this is as disastrous of a situation as many will make it out to be. All right, let's talk about this Timberwolves game that's taking place on Thursday night and maybe what the Pelicans can do to turn around and some good injury updates that we saw from this latest injury report and maybe some reporting as well. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to actually apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. play-by-play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the nation. Hey, everydayers, this is your everydayer club. Call on. This is your time. This is your call. I want y'all to come hang out with me down in the comment section below. Let me know if you're an everydayer, and if you're not, we're having a bunch of fun over here. So I'm just saying, you might want to come hang out with us. Let me know if you're an everydayer, and if you're not, be better. All right, let's get into this Timberwolves game. And I think first, as always, we got to start with the injury report, because that really, any given day, it could be different. And that kind of dictates where the rest of the conversation around the game goes. Now, luckily, today's is, there's no new bad news on it. And there's actually a little piece of good news. On the injury report, everybody that was, most of the people, I'd say, that were out are expected to be out. Like Yves Missi, of course, Zion, Jordan Poole, Herb Jones. But Carlo Makovic was put as questionable for this game. He's been out since the middle of November. It was that second Warriors game, dealing with a calf strain. And those soft tissue issues, the calf issues, the lower leg issues are more common right now in the NBA. That's been a whole conversation about the increased pace, and that's why you're seeing it for a lot of teams. It's not the only reason. I'm sure the Pelicans have been dealing with injuries. I'm sure it just hasn't helped. But of course, you look over at a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, their injury report is nobody out, nobody even questionable. The only two people on it were a two-way player and a guy who has not played yet this year, who has to wear. I'm really encouraged to see Carlo Makovic back on at least questionable. I definitely have been beginning to expect you're probably going to see him back in a couple of games. Herb Jones and Jordan Poole also here are getting better. I would not expect to see them out for much, much longer. Who knows? I think at worst, we're about to see this stretch of the NBA Cup where there's a lot more rest. There's 2 games being played between the 9th and the 17th. A lot more rest. I would expect to see during that time, probably by the end of that time, I would expect like Herb Jones, Carlo Makovic, Jordan Poole, all to be back. Yves Missi, I'm sure, is probably not out too long. I don't think we've heard anything to say or suggest that injury is pretty is looking bad. Now, DeJounte Murray, of course, we still don't know. We'll know when we know. And Zion, maybe we'll hear something in a couple of weeks. All right. So how does that affect this game? If Carlo Makovic is back, I think it helps tremendously, because I know he might not be a star player. I think he does a lot of great things. I'm a Carlo crazy, as they call us. He is by far, I think, the best shooting big that they have, which obviously helps, especially in this offense where James Borrego is trying to get a lot of shots up. You look at the last game that the Pelicans played against the Timberwolves, and though they didn't have the 3-point shooting that I think a guy like Carlo Makovic would help a ton, they dominated the paint. They still got up 91 shots. They scored 142 points. Scoring 142 points while making 12 threes in 2025 NBA is very impressive. Also helped out, at home, your whistle is going to be a little bit better. Their whistle was indeed better. I think getting a guy like Carlo is going to help the spacing. We've talked a lot about how the Pelicans don't have a ton of spacing right now because of all their shooters being out. Trey Murphy being back definitely helped that out. Although the Timberwolves, you saw, Trey Murphy did start to get shots up, but for a while they were just tunneling him inside. And I think one of the great things about Derek Queen is he was able to take advantage of that and anticipate that and make some great passes. And that's whenever the Timberwolves kind of started to adjust again, and you saw Trey be able to shoot a little bit more. And so maybe that's something that you see the team adjust to. And obviously, Carlo is also a huge lob threat along with Trey. Ooh, can we talk about Trey and Jeremiah begging to get on the same page with these lobs? We saw it once, and then it worked out once, and they kept going to it. It didn't work as well the next couple of times, but I love to see that happening. There were times where Derek Queen earlier this season we'd see him and he'd make a crazy lob and it would miss, but you're like, I like the tenacity. And that's exactly how I feel about Jeremiah Fears. One of the big things, we've talked a lot about the great things that Jeremiah Fears does, because I think he does a lot of great things. But as a point guard, we've wanted to see him become a little bit more of a playmaker, set his teammates up for success. And the fact that he is now attacking the Trey Murphy lob with the same tenacity as Derek Queen is, I think that is great, because Trey Murphy is a guy that you can make defenses adjust to, especially right now without Zion. Trey Murphy is the guy where defenses are like, all right, he's the guy. We're going to give him the star treatment. We're going to give him that defense, and they're going to follow him around, and making them be scared of Trey Murphy in multiple levels of the defense helps everybody out. So I love the fact that we're seeing them open up the playmaking for Trey Murphy a lot this season. It was something I was very excited to see, the Trey Murphy Zion 2-man game. It's just, we actually really haven't been able to see that very much. So what do they need to do better in this game to win? Obviously not let Anthony Edwards score 44 points. I think they did a great job on him in the first half, especially that second quarter. But 34 points in second half and overtime. He played the entirety of second half and overtime. Obviously, that is the big thing that you need to worry about. I would love to see Derek Queen start to attack Rudy Gobert more. You kind of started to see that confidence build into him as the game went on. That's something you want to go to. I loved everything they did with Julius Randle. He did not look comfortable in that game. Jaden McDaniels had a pretty good game, but, you can't stop everybody on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're a very good team. But I think that there's a lot of things for this team to look at and be like, all right, we can build upon and maybe help win this game. Use Trey Murphy at the rim, help open up his shooting for later in the game. And Derek Queen, stay aggressive. Jeremiah Fears, stay aggressive. Those are two players I don't have to worry about that with. Just they need the opportunity to cook. And this was it was a loss, but it was a great time where you got to see them play in a close, tight game, and Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears stay on the court and do positive things. I wouldn't be too shocked. It's crazy to say right now. I wouldn't be too shocked if the Pelicans do win this game, and that would be a massive win to pick up before they go against the Brooklyn Nets, who are a team they should beat. But like we've talked a lot about, basketball is a mental game. Getting another win before that one would be great. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Jordan Poole, who we've already mentioned might be coming back soon. We're going to talk about what I talked to him with after the event, talk a little bit about the event. And, man, I think this is a guy that Pelicans fans, once they start to see him on the court more, and, he's only played like 7 games, I think Pelicans fans are going to like him a lot more than maybe they expect to. Guys, it's one of my favorite times of every 4 years. The World Cup is coming back, and it's coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is actually the hardest part of anything, but especially trying to get, I don't know about you all, but I've thought in the past, man, I would love to go to the World Cup, but getting tickets sounds miserable. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. This might be the first time I'm actually able to go, just because I have the opportunity thanks to Game Time. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, buy the tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event you want to go to with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. You can follow me on Twitter at Dilly Sanders. Also, come hang out on my website, Pelicans Roundtable. You get the spiel. All right. I want to close out today's episode by talking about something a little bit fun, because I think that's exactly what the New Orleans Pelicans need. I got the opportunity to go over to a local Walmart, and Jordan Poole was there with the local chapter of the Boys and Girls Club. And he gave 12 kids $300 to go and spend whatever money they wanted to on their Christmas presents. It was awesome. Unsurprisingly, with how the world works today, the kids immediately ran to the electronics section. Like, they're grabbing headphones. I saw a bunch of copies of 2K flying around, unsurprisingly. It had to go get more from the back. It was awesome. I saw Jordan signing a couple of those. It was just all around cool and a mood lifter in these trying times. But I also got to have a pretty cool conversation with Jordan Poole just about the event, being in New Orleans, and of course what he expects and what he wants to see in himself out of the new James Borrego offense. Because you had to talk a little bit of basketball. And again, I would not expect to see Jordan Poole out for much longer. I'm very excited about that, because I really do think that he could be a great piece in this James Borrego offense. So yeah, anyway, we talked to Jordan about just the opportunity. He was very happy to have the chance to come in and make an impact on the community. He said as a kid that's something that he would have really liked to have the opportunity to take part in. He knows he would have been super grateful, and he knows the kids today were super, super grateful for that opportunity as well. I did ask him the most important question: what was a gift that he knew that he really wanted as a kid? Because I always find that interesting, because everyone's different. His two that he brought up were a set of golf clubs that he never used, and a black Randy Moss Raiders jersey, which is sick. And of course, while we're talking about community, I wanted to see what he thought of like his first impressions of the New Orleans community, because it's his first year here, and it is a really cool place if a player is able to embrace that, show a part of themselves. And that's exactly what he said. You can feel the honesty, the authenticity. They're not going to sugarcoat anything, which is dope to be a part of. Like, put in the energy and the time, get to know them, just be yourself. That's what they are. That's what they attract. That makes sense. And he talked a lot about like Southern hospitality, that being real, but also talked a lot about just, knowing it's real people, the honesty, and being able to connect to this community. And I think that if someone's able to embrace the people of New Orleans, this team, this fan base, sends that right back. It's all of New Orleans sports, really. And so that's a good sign to see of someone who, should be part of the plans here for at least a couple of years, to really know that. Because we've seen whenever players don't do that, they don't mesh well, it backfires completely. And of course, I had to talk a little bit of basketball. So I talked to him about what he's seeing in the fast-paced James Borrego offense, and how excited he is to be able to join that and play in that. And he said, I think he does a really good job with his details, how detail-oriented he is with his approach, his strategy, because we need that as a team. A lot of them have been in the league and their experience, but also just in the phase where a lot of our guys are bumping into like the next steps of their careers. And he believes Borrego is preparing them for that because of the details. Getting better at closing games, the importance of taking every game possession by possession, And so a lot of focus. And he says he sees a lot of, the stuff that he was lucky to had the privilege of learning earlier in his career, of course, in the Golden State Warriors locker room. And so he thinks it's really good for the younger guys in the offense and in the team. And he said they haven't been able to put all the pieces together, but he believes it's been promising, and the team is reacting to the start in the right way. And so he believes it's just a matter of time until all the pieces get put together. And I think that is, encouraging to hear, because there are a lot of people in a lot of teams that, the Pelicans have seen in the past. You have this bad start and it kills morale. And I think you're seeing it on the court and on the bench. Like, these players do care a lot. There are reactions no matter what the game is. The bench is interactive. The player coaches, Jordan is always like standing up in the games. It's fun to watch. Excited to see him get back out on the court. I thought that was a pretty fun event. All right. Thank you all for listening today. Thank you for checking us out, making us your first listen. For your second listen, go on and check out Josh Lloyd on Locked On Fantasy Basketball. I'm excited. I'm winning games thanks to him. So thank you, Josh. Y'all should go check him out as well. And of course, I'll see y'all tomorrow.